Good morning. How's everybody this morning? Good. Happy New Year. Huh? Thank you. And I'm telling you, I'm so grateful to be here, just experiencing the love and the support that is part of this community. It truly makes a wonderful difference in my life. So I thank each of you for what you bring and what you share. And if you've noticed, we have these little stuffed animals. And for those of you who are not familiar, we have a program where we love up on stuffed animals. And then we take the time, once we spend some time just putting loving energy into these animals, and then they go to special causes. They used to go, or they have gone in the past, to the sheriff's office to help with children of domestic violence so that they get something to hold on to. This one is actually going to the care house for little ones to hold on to. So the love that we get to imbue these little guys with, or girls, whichever one your preference is, gets to go and make a difference in the life. So if you have an animal and you want to hold on to it, that would be great. That would be great, and we thank you for that. Thank you for doing that. So happy 2016. Can you believe it? Yeah. I'll tell you what. We celebrated, it's been a while, we were missing 2 weeks here. Gary and I took Nathan and we traveled down to Orlando to see our youngest son, Ben, who had just got a new job after college. So he's extremely excited, so we went down and spent some time. And I have never in my life experienced a warm Christmas. But it was like 84 down there. And and we were in shorts, and you talk about weird, but kind of a good weird. But it was like we fixed the dinner, and I was basting, and they all went out and played cornhole and went swimming. I'm like, hey, this is new. So we had a really good time and had a lot of fun visiting family in St. Augustine and going up and down St. George Street. Anybody ever been to St. George Street in St. Augustine? Yeah, beautiful. It's beautiful. It's changing a lot, like everything's changing a lot. So this is what this is about at the beginning of the year, a new year and a year of change. So I'd like to know if you'd be willing to play along with me on something as I trip over this. I'd like to throw out a series of questions to you that I'd like for you, as I do, to ponder. Would you be willing to do that with me? Good, and that'll lead us into our talk. I'm going to read them because I kind of like what I wrote down. Okay. So it's a new year. So how is it starting out for you? What are you intending for yourself in 2016? What are your hopes and your dreams? Is this year starting out perfectly so far? Or have you already had some disappointment? Are you beginning to wonder if this year will be different than the others? Or do you expect it to be pretty much the same as last year? Or maybe even better? How can you tell if this year is going to be a good year or a bad year? Who or what do you look to for validation of the kind of year that you are going to have? And are you wishing and hoping for a good year and yet feel hesitant to believe it? Because let's face it, we're only in day 3, right? We got 362 more days. How do we know what kind of year or life that we're going to have in 2016? How can anybody know, right? Do you walk around with a crystal ball? I don't. How about a magic wand? I have. I don't readily admit it. But. So how can we do anything but wish or hope for what we want for the new year? Well, that's what we get to explore. And we're going to start today with this month, the month of January. And the theme for January is a world that works for everyone. I know when you walked in, did you see that big poster on the wall as you walked in? A year that works for everyone. Do you know that that's actually a phrase out of the global vision that the United Centers for Spiritual Living all over the world, that individuals from the various centers came together, people who have been practicing these teachings for many, many years came together and said, here we are, a teaching that talks about creating the life we want to live. Well, what is our vision? And so they created a global vision, and it's a pretty magnificent vision as far as I'm concerned. But one of the lines in there, it says, we envision a world that works for everyone and for all creation. Now, I don't know about you, but what do you think about that vision? What's your first response? Well, mine was, wow, that's pretty cool. Wow, a world that works for everyone, for all creation? And then guess what? My mind jumped in and said, really? Really? A mind that works for everyone? How is that even possible? I mean, think about it. It's got to be, if it's working for everybody, it's got to work for the people I don't like. It's got to work for people halfway across the globe who don't like me and who really want to see me gone, right? So why would I ever want to wish for a world that works for everyone if that means that they're trying to take me down? Does that mean that their wish, their work's going to work for take me down? Well, I don't want to be down. So how's that going to work? Well, wait a minute. If it's a world that works for everyone and we have opposing thoughts, how's this going to work? And my mind starts to go and starts to go and starts to go. And what I realize is that my mind is not designed to deal with the vision for my life. My mind is meant to be a tool with which my soul, my spirit uses to take the information that I gain intuitively in my practice, my meditation, my spiritual work, to allow me to step forward so I can learn how to apply that in this world. But I don't start with my mind, because my mind just doesn't get it. It's geared only for a specific job. And casting this vision and living from that is not it. It's really helping me to learn how to live from that vision in this world. Capiche? I love that word. So anyway, what I wanted to do when we were looking at that is look at the basic foundation of our teachings, because it's from the basic foundation of our teachings that we have this ability at all to create a vision. The basic fundamental foundation upon which we build, we usually come back to this year after year after year. A lot of churches every January will start from the basics. And I love coming from the basics because you know what? It helps me to remember. Oh yeah, I remember. This is what we're about. And when I come and revisit it again, I don't know about you, but when I come and revisit it again, I get something new out of it. I tend to get a little deeper and connects with me in a different way. So we're going to be looking at the basics so that we can understand how it is that these new thought leaders of our community, of our global community, have come up with these global vision so that we can look and say, not only can they create it for us as a spiritual community around the world, but we can create it for us as individuals. Create a vision for our lives for this year and down the road. So what I'd like you to do for me is you were given in your bulletin a half sheet of paper. And in the bulletin on that half sheet of paper, you're going to find on one side, it says what we believe, with Dr. Ernest Holmes' Declaration of Principles that came out in 1927 in the first issue of Science of Mind. On the flip side, you're going to actually see the global vision and what individuals who practicing these teachings have been able to step out and declare, to speak through their vision of a world that they desire. So let's take a look at the very first paragraph. There's a lot. We're going to look at what we believe. And we're only going to look at the very first paragraph because there's a lot in there. So I want to read it. We believe in God, the living Spirit, Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-evident cause. This one manifests itself through all creation. I think I'm missing part of it. Thank you so much, Clara. If anybody needs one, Clara's got one. In and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. So let's take a look at this a piece at a time. And then we're going to relate it back to what this talk is and the value and importance of those two words, the shortest statement in the English language, I am. So let's look. We believe in God. Now that God in our teachings comes by many names, right? First cause, infinite source, divine one, that which is, the thing itself. But we believe in one God, not multiple, but one. Now there are multiple expressions in creation of this oneness, but it's still just one. The living Spirit, Almighty, right? Not partially mighty, like maybe a little bit mighty. Almighty. And it is one indestructible, absolute, meaning that it exists independently and is not dependent on anything. It is perfect, it is complete, and it is not capable of being violated or destroyed. And self-existent. It exists by the nature of its own being. It doesn't rely on anybody or anything to bring it into form or existence. Now this one manifests itself through all creation. So guess what? We're looking at it. It's manifesting in all creation. So I'm looking at a lot of awesome expressions of the one manifesting in and through. And yet, in manifesting in all of us, it's not absorbed by us. We're just a part of it. The manifest universe is the body of God. So this universe that we walk in, we live in, we express in, the people we meet, the creatures, the things we experience, they're all a part of this manifest body. There is no exception. And that means when we're looking at objects, they're all part of this divine energy, this life source, this living spirit. And it's the logical and necessary outcome of this infinite self-knowingness of God to create, to express. That's how it knows itself. That's how it experiences itself. It experiences itself as us, in us. But again, we're not the whole. But what it is that we are is that. There's no mistaking. And there's nothing that we can do to change that. We are the living spirit of the one that is expressing as each of us. It doesn't matter if we choose to live a life where we bring great joy and love in the world, or we choose a life where we just whack everybody down to nothing. That doesn't change this truth. It is elemental. It is what it is. It does not change. It is not destroyed and it is not lessened. But here's the difference. We get to decide how we're going to engage with this. We get to decide how we're going to experience what it is to be this living spirit as who we are. That's something, isn't it? Imagine. I mean, even in the Bible, Jesus said that statement, you can't change a hair on your head, right? You can't change the color from black to white. Well, you have a beautician, you can, but you can't really change what's growing out of your head. So you don't have that capacity. And that's that same idea. We do not have the capacity to change the truth of what we come from and what we are as a result of that. All we get to do is determine how we want to live it, how we want to get to know it, how we want to be it. How do we want to be this living spirit in this world as us? And that's what I really like about this reading from Neville. Because when you look at the reading from Neville and he talks about it, he talks about the I am. And And what's interesting, he says, is the center of my being remains the same regardless of what concept I hold, right? It doesn't change. The truth of who we are doesn't change. We can hold whatever thought we want. You know, a cookie is still a cookie whether we like it or not, okay? It is what it is. I am. I want to go to the second one. I am is a feeling of permanent awareness. Now that I am statement, remember, for those of you who grew up studying the Bible, that was one of the things that when Moses went to Mount Sinai, right? He went up and he saw this bush that was burning but was not consuming the bush. And he said, what's your name? Who are you? And what was the response that he got back? I am that I am. Interesting. I am that I am. Now, he's not saying I am a girl, I am a boy, I am this, I am. I'm simply am. And when we look at the statement, it is a feeling of permanent awareness. The very center of consciousness is the feeling of I am. So what I'd like you to do is just take a moment and just say to yourself internally, I am. And remember to breathe while you're doing it. Just take a moment. I am. Speak that. And what I want you to become aware of is where you begin to associate that in your body. Where are you feeling it? How's it showing up? What's your body responding? Is it tingling? Does it feel solid? Does it feel like ooh? Are you noticing it in your gut, your heart, your brain, your left leg? It's an awareness. Ours is to become aware of the truth of who we are and to live from that. It is a feeling. And what does he say? I may forget who I am. I may forget where I am and even what I am. But I cannot forget that I am. This awareness remains regardless of the degree of forgetfulness. So how many of you use the word I am frequently? I use it a lot. Are you ever aware of the word that you used after it? Yeah, very powerful. So when we think about that statement, I am, that's a powerful statement. A powerful statement. So we get to determine the word that we want to place after it. So what I'd like you to do now is to take a moment and do that again. But in this time, what I'd like you to do is add a word after I am. But I'd ask that the word that you present to yourself is one that makes you feel alive, enlivens you, brings you joy, feels better. Whatever word that is, I am. I am beautiful, I am strong, I'm healthy, I'm smart, I'm happy, I'm prosperous, I'm gifted, I'm creative. And pay attention to where your body is registering it. We have our bodies for a reason. Pay attention, become aware. Where's my body registering this? What's it feeling as I say that? And breathe that in. Own it. Because we're the creators. And in this teaching, that was the very thing that Ernest Holmes talked about, is that we come from that, and it's the very nature that we are. Right? In the Bible, right? You're made in the image and likeness of God. There's the same way of putting it that way. So we are that living spirit. And guess what? All of creation is the living spirit. So when we put out there a thought, an idea, or a concept of ourself, then living spirit's got nothing else to do but to reflect it back. So if I speak to myself in a negative tone, it's going to reflect it back to me. That's what we do. That's why we meet people and all of a sudden they reflect back to us the thoughts we're having. And we want to make it their fault, which on one sense feels good, but on others doesn't. I mean, you don't want to own your stuff sometimes. I mean, at least I don't. It's like, oh, man, I don't want to own that. It's your fault. But it doesn't help me then to become the creator that I am, to step into that role more fully. So when we are creating from that I am, then we start with what kind of world do we want? What kind of life do we want this year? What kind? Because when we start with the I am and we own it, then guess what? We do have greater power on the kind of world, the kind of life we want to have this year than we think. And we do, whether we agree with it or not, whether we're conscious of it or not, we are actively creating our life, our year. The thing is do you want to be an active, conscious participant? And if you do, then take a look. Take time to look at the words that you speak. Take time to put yourself in a place where you can appreciate and experience the beauty that life is. Be around people that affirm the beauty in life. We don't have to be trying to explain it to somebody who doesn't want to believe it. Bless them and let them be. And that's the one thing that we're going to talk about when we talk about this global new thought. When we look at the massive dynamics of this vision, a world that works for everyone and for all creation, it starts here. And as we each start to own it, to live it, to be it, then what you're going to find is you're going to step and go, oh yeah, I see that vision. I don't quite know how it's going to come about, but I don't need to, because guess what? I'm a part of a life that does. But the wonderful thing is we get to start first with our life this year. What do we want to have? And then we get to build and add upon that. We are incredibly loved, incredibly gifted. And it's okay to own it. It is okay to own it, to appreciate it. Because we make a tremendous difference in this world by simply being who we are. And I'm grateful for you, for what you have brought here today to co-create this experience together, for the support that you've given me as I speak up here. You could have thrown a lot of tomatoes. So what we're going to do now is, as we practice, meditate, take a class, read, talk to people, expand yourself, your mind. And then we together can create what we as a collective community all over the globe have said that we want to create, that we vision, and that we're going to step forward and do what is ours to do for it to happen. And we're going to do it for ourselves individually, and it'll start to unfold globally. So let's go into prayer. It feels really good to think about the fact that we are this living spirit, that we can be nothing else, because that from which we spring is nothing else but living spirit, whole, complete, absolute, self-existent. First cause. And when it created out of the self-knowingness of its own being to bring forth into creation the body of its being as us, it knew what it was doing. There was no doubt. And how awesome it is to consider, to open a heart to the idea that we are wonderfully made, that the very nature of our existence is this spirit, this life energy that awaits us to know it ever more fully and radiantly. And I'm so grateful that it doesn't matter what we do because we can't lose it. But what it matters is how we want to relate to it. What kind of life do we want to have? And I'm so grateful that we have the authority to determine that. For the divine expresses in and through and as each one of us. And as the divine was a self-existent cause of its own being in macro, we are that in our own lives. We are loved. We are prosperous. We are loving. We are creative, wise, intelligent, beautiful, strong, healthy, vibrant, aware, and one. We claim this because it is our truth. And we simply let it be so as we release what we know to be so into that divine spirit for it to reflect back to us what we already know is. And so it is with love and gratitude that I give thanks. And together we simply say, and so it is.